winds near the center of the storm in excess of 100 miles an hour. If you have not heeded the Weather Bureau's official warning and evacuated to safe shelter, you should do so at once. However, when the storm hits, do not attempt to go outside. Stay in your home or shelter.
I don't see the Jacksons anywhere.
Oh, Fred said he was going to ride this one out at home.
Is it getting worse, Fred?
Maybe. But we're safe enough.
Shouldn't we have gone with... I'm sorry, Fred, I won't say it again.
Just don't worry.
I wish you'd boarded up that window.
Thus the long, anxious wait. And as in almost every community in the path of the storm, some have heeded the official warnings, others have not. Once again, a hurricane sweeps out of the tropics and strikes at the mainland of the United States. The probability that this will happen every year, perhaps even several times a year, is something we must accept. More than 150 hurricanes have hit the United States in the past 60 years. Yet, even with this alarming frequency, we are prone to minimize or forget the danger and tragedy of hurricanes. Survival depends upon many things: adequate advance warning that disaster is going to strike, a community plan to protect its people, and the willingness of everyone to follow official instructions. A hurricane, your hurricane perhaps, might be detected one morning by meteorologists aboard a weather airplane, a unit of the hurricane hunters, whose mission is to locate and observe tropical storms that might grow into hurricanes. Scores of tropical disturbances occur during the hurricane season, which usually reaches its peak in August and September. Only a very few of these storms will develop into hurricanes. It's the job of the Weather Bureau to detect those that do develop, to track them, to predict their course, to issue forecasts and warnings. Weather forecasting requires accurate and timely information. New instruments are constantly being put into use. Radar, weather observing devices, electronic computers, and improved equipment for use on aircraft all make it possible for the weatherman to do a better job of predicting and forecasting. TIROS weather satellites, which orbit in outer space and transmit pictures of clouds to ground stations, are expected to be the forerunners of a new era in weather forecasting accuracy. Satellites are revealing weather phenomena formerly unknown to man. They will amplify what is already known about hurricanes. Hurricanes originate over water as tropical windstorms. When the winds reach a speed of more than 73 miles an hour, the storm is officially called a hurricane and given a name. Girls' names are used because they have proved to be the shortest and least confusing way of designating the storms. The names are selected by the Weather Bureau. The hurricane is accompanied by extremely heavy rainfall. The winds revolve counterclockwise about a central calm area, an area known as the eye. The diameter of the eye may vary from 3 to 60 miles. Thus, when a storm passes over, a period of relative calm will last from a few minutes to perhaps an hour, depending upon the diameter of the eye and the forward speed of the storm. Hurricanes move forward at 12 to 15 miles an hour in the tropics, but may travel as fast as 60 miles an hour in northerly latitudes. The area affected by a hurricane may be as small as 30 miles in diameter, while in large storms, the diameter may be as much as 1,000 miles. Hurricanes are extremely erratic and most difficult to forecast. They can veer off in all directions, even backtrack on their course. Sometimes tornadoes are a byproduct occurring on the perimeters of hurricanes. However, tornadoes are usually born of thunderstorms far inland from hurricanes and remote from them. The boiling funnel shape makes them easily recognized. These vicious, deadly storms are similar to hurricanes in that they are cyclonic, a violent vortex in the atmosphere. Unlike hurricanes, they cut narrow paths when they strike the earth, sometimes only a few yards wide. The length of their paths is usually less than 16 miles. Their winds rotate at speeds up to 500 miles an hour, the most violent force in all nature. They are far more frequent than hurricanes. More than 800 have occurred in the United States in a single year. Their destructive effects are terrifying. To forecast the development of dangerous weather conditions, the Weather Bureau established a severe local storm warning center. The specialized staff forecasts severe local storm conditions. During the summer and fall, when most tropical disturbances occur, forecast offices maintain a systematic watch for the development of hurricanes. When it is definitely determined that a tropical storm is forming, even though it is hundreds of miles from the mainland, observation of the storm becomes continuous. At frequent intervals, advisories are issued, which report all that is known about the storm, where it is, its intensity, speed, and direction. The reports are constantly updated by new information. Through the cooperation of the Air Force, the Navy, the Coast Guard, and the Federal Aviation Agency, the Weather Bureau is able to keep the storm under constant observation. Reconnaissance planes make daily flights into the eye of the storm for periods up to 6 hours at a time. With the constant stream of data they transmit, the Weather Bureau can now begin to predict the path of the storm. As the storm moves toward the mainland, hurricane watch notices are issued.
We have just received a bulletin from the Weather Bureau which says a hurricane watch is now in effect in this area. Hurricane conditions may be felt here in 30 to 42 hours. The Weather Bureau says this means the public should be ready to take precautionary action if it becomes necessary to issue warnings.
As the hurricane approaches, reconnaissance airplanes gather information by flying into the storm, night and day. Tracking by Weather Bureau and other radars, especially along the Gulf and Atlantic coasts, is now constant. Each radar can pick up the storm when it comes within 200 miles. To supplement all these reports, the Weather Bureau relies on a vast number of observers on the coasts: civil defense workers, public safety personnel, and members of the armed services, qualified people who feed information to local Weather Bureau stations. The thousands of amateur radio operators are particularly valuable, not only as sources of information, but also in providing a link with the world when all other communications are out. Observations from ships at sea are received at frequent intervals. Experienced hurricane forecasters make their decisions from the huge volume of weather information. When they determine that a particular section of the mainland will feel the full effects of the hurricane, a hurricane warning is issued.
Hurricane warnings, according to an official U.S. Weather Bureau bulletin, are now in effect in this area. All persons living in coastal areas which may be flooded by tides of 5 to 7 feet above normal should move to high ground.
We're meeting here today in order to make some plans for...
Months before, the Weather Bureau conducted local preparedness meetings to alert responsible officials and civic leaders to the dangers of such storms. The participants were selected well in advance of the hurricane season so that they would be prepared to activate government, Coast Guard, civil defense, police, amateur radio operators, and Red Cross facilities and personnel. These leaders make it their responsibility to see that warnings are widespread, that all citizens are forewarned, that they understand evacuation plans, how to protect their property and their lives.
Here is the latest word from the Weather Bureau. The hurricane will strike our city in about 16 hours. The Bureau suggests that you follow these safety precautions and measures. Keep your radio or television on for latest warnings and advisories. Battery-operated sets will be invaluable. Pay no attention to rumors. Evacuate from low-lying beaches which may be swept by high tides or storm waves. Be alert for high water in areas where streams or rivers may flood after heavy rains. Board up windows. Tie down or remove everything that might be blown away or torn loose. Be sure to have plenty of gasoline in your car. Get in extra food and drinking water. Don't, under any circumstances, attempt to secure a boat during the storm. The greatest loss of life in a hurricane is from drowning. If you were notified by officials to evacuate your property, do so. You will be directed to places of safety.
Once again, a community braces itself, prepares to withstand the tremendous destructive force of a hurricane. It's a howling monster that destroys with savage ferocity. Yet the chances, your chances for survival, are excellent if warnings are heeded, if precautions are taken.
I keep worrying about the Jacksons. I wish they were here.
Well, you know how Fred Jackson is. Sort of stubborn.
Fred, I do wish we'd gone with the others.
I'm just going on what I know about storms in these parts. Now, don't worry. We'll get along fine.
But will they? The Jacksons have taken a frightful risk. Not like their friends and neighbors here. These people are taking no chances. They're not gambling their very lives with the winds that kill.